Hello guys, welcome back to Chris Polly channel. This video I want to share about preparation for any node and resource on new region Land of the Morning Light Seoul. Okay, to enjoy watch my video, make sure you turn on this video subtitle, and also you can use timestamp that I already provide to go to target topic that you want. And if you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on bell notification to get any update and guide on Black Desert World. Okay, let's start this video content using any feature that I provide. Okay, as previous already scheduled, at least they already confirmed, new region Land of the Morning Light Seoul will come to any other region server outside Korea after 12 September 2024 maintenance update. So any content on Land of the Morning Light Seoul will release to any other region server outside Korea at this time. Either you can finishing any new main quest on Land of the Morning Light Seoul that I already got you on this playlist until the final chapter, and this main quest is continuous story about our adventures on Land of the Morning Light Seoul with Dosue and Gumiho, and also continue story about Yeonhwa, and also any other main content on Land of the Morning Light Seoul, like new world boss, new Black Shrine content, and also new endgame weapon, Sovereign Weapon, also will updated to any other region server outside Korea with Land of the Morning Light Seoul update. So for more detail about all this content, you can check on the special playlist that I already compile all early guide related with any content on Land of the Morning Light Seoul on this playlist. That you can find this playlist on this video description. And right now on this video, I will focus to talk about any node on Land of the Morning Light Seoul. As you can see, this is full map for Land of the Morning Light continent that already open on Korea Live server. Okay, to more easy view any node on this continent, I will use node filter on this world map, and this is any node connection that available on Land of the Morning Light continent. And as you can see, this is separation line between Land of the Morning Light Part 1 and Land of the Morning Light Part 2. This is Seoul update that will release after 12 September 2024 maintenance update. But if you need some guide for any node on Land of the Morning Light Part 1, you can check on my previous video that focus explaining about any node on Land of the Morning Light Part 1 in this video. Okay, now we focus on Land of the Morning Light Seoul node, and same as Land of the Morning Light Part 1, any node on Land of the Morning Light Seoul only require 1 CP per node that you can invest it same as before. And there are some subnode that you can send your worker to gathering any material on that subnode. And total node on Land of the Morning Light Seoul is 27 node, and there are 19 subnode on this Land of the Morning Light Seoul to send your worker to gathering any material from this subnode. And on Land of the Morning Light Seoul, there are 3 city with 3 storage that you can put any item on this city storage. But because when I record this video, this is still on Korea Live server, name for the city might be changed when real translation come to our live server in future. And at the center of this map, there are Seoul node, but on this Seoul node, there are no storage for this big city capital. And for this 3 city, as always, you didn't need to spend any contribution point because this is become starting point to connect any node around this city. Okay, I will show you the detailed investment for each city. First for Upper Town. As you can see, you also can invest some contribution point to any housing on this town. And same as before, for each housing, you only need 1 contribution point to invest for every house. And you can rent this house to become expansion storage, lodging for your worker, or any workshop, either for production and crate production. And some of this housing, you also can build expansion for your horse stable. But I think all this housing is recommended to expand the city storage expansion slot or any worker lodging if you need worker from this town. Okay, for the second town, at the middle, behind Seoul node, as you can see there are 4 houses that you can rent, and same as before, every house only need 1 contribution point to invest to each house. And special for this house at the middle for this Land of the Morning Light Seoul, you also can craft special furniture item from the Seoul update, either for your residence and for your manor. And also you can craft tool workshop to craft specialty cooking utensil and alchemy tools from this Land of the Morning Light continent. And if you want to invest this house to become storage or lodging, this is already clearly specified for each house because as you can see, for some house for sure, you will get more benefit for specific function, either storage expansion or lodging. And then for the third town, at the bottom, there are 3 housing that you can rent. And same as before, you only need 1 contribution point to invest any house on this town. And I think any house on this town, better you use it either for city storage or lodging to gather any material from your worker. And sadly, all housing on land of the Morning Light Seoul town, you cannot rent it to become residence. So all housing on land of the Morning Light continent, you cannot rent it as residence because on land of the Morning Light continent, if you want to play housing content, you need to rent manor on this continent. And as you already know, on land of the Morning Light Part 1, there are 2 manor, either cheap manor and expensive manor that you can rent. But on land of the Morning Light Seoul, there are only 1 manor that available to rent, and this manor located on Seoul North. And as you can see, this is preview for this manor on Seoul North that you can rent. Okay, next I will show you any resource that you can get by send your worker to each subnode on land of the Morning Light Seoul. Okay, first from top of this area, that you can send your worker to get iron ore, dark powder, and black crystal gemstone. And for this node, you can send your worker to get maple wood, maple sap, and old tree bark, and the same thing for another subnode. And then for this node, you can send your worker to this excavation node to get rest of nature and translucent crystal. And I think this is very recommended node that you need to invest to get rest item as rare resource from this excavation node. And then from this node, you can send your worker to get Firlock and Firsap. And another node, you can send your worker to get zinc ore, powder of time, and platinum ore. And the same thing for another node. And I very recommend you to send your worker on these 2 nodes because zinc ore and platinum ore is very rare and very expensive on Black Desert. And then on this node, near Seoul node, there are some mining node that also very recommend because inside this mining node, you can get copper ore, powder of flame, and opal gemstone. And this opal gemstone make this node very precious to invest because opal gemstone is very rare. And another node on this area, you also can gather Firlock and Spirit Leaf. And then on this node, you can send your worker to gather Violet. And another subnode is very recommend because you can get another opal gemstone from this node. And then on this node, you also can send your worker to get Bridge Lock and Bridge Sap. And then on bottom town, from this land of the Morning Light Seoul, there are 4 subnodes from this town that you can send your worker on this subnode either to get radish, another 2 node to get rice, and another subnode you can get cabbage by sending your worker on this subnode. And I think this town at the bottom of land of the Morning Light Seoul is nearly same like Nopse Biot County that also have some subnode to gathering any cooking material. And then the last node that have subnode at this node that you can send your worker to get pine log and pine sap. Okay, that's all any resource from any subnode on land of the Morning Light Seoul node. And don't worry, you can send any worker from this 3 new town on land of the Morning Light Seoul. And as always, each town will have its worker manager NPC that you can hire any worker for that town. And as you can see for town at the bottom, you can hire your worker on this location. This NPC also become node manager on this town. And for town at the middle, near Seoul node, you can rent your worker on this NPC. And the last town at top of this land of the Morning Light Seoul, you also can rent worker from this NPC. And any worker on this land of the Morning Light Seoul, you can hire either human worker, turtle worker, or dokebi worker. And similar mechanic for sending your worker on Black Desert Online, you can send your worker to any node as long that node connect to town where the worker source. And more detailed basic node mechanic on Black Desert Online, you can check my special video about basic guide for node investment either part 1 and part 2 that I focus about worker empire on this second part. Okay, that's all preview for any node and resource that you can get from land of the Morning Light Seoul. And let me know on this video comment section If you have any question related with Land of the Morning Light Seoul update that will release after 12 September 2024 maintenance update, and for sure I will seek your answer by testing it on Korea server, so you can prepare anything before this update come. And just stay tuned on Chris Poly channel. I will update any detailed information for preview Land of the Morning Light Seoul in future. And special thanks to all my membership for direct support via Patreon, Karya Karsa, and YouTube membership. And also my current member, Dubiadut, Doki, Ayrton, Snot, Soren, Afrilka, Elfamilia, Jeff, Stardazet, S Gold member. And also for all my silver and bronze member, thank you so much for all your direct support. This will make Chris Poly channel running and growing more faster. If you want to support me directly, I will very grateful. And as special thanks, I will put your name on my video depend on your support level. And be noticed at some level there are have some limit, so make sure you didn't get run out for this limited space. And I will put your name on every subsequent video that I release for the duration of your support. And if you want to join my membership to support me directly, you can go to any platform for Patreon, Karya Karsa, and YouTube membership. I already put link for this membership on this video description, or you can check on top right of this video. I already put card for Patreon link. Okay guys, that's all preview for any note and resource on new region Land of the Morning Light Seoul. Hope all this information can be useful for you. If you like this video, you can like and subscribe to my channel for another guide and update. Thank you for watching. See you next time.